Hi, I'm Bina Kavalam, career and life strategist for high-performing professionals. And today I'm here to talk with you about a topic we don't like to talk about, bullying in the workplace. This is a very important topic to me specifically because I was bullied as a kid. And then, after overcoming it when I went to college and becoming this really confident person that I felt I could take on the world, when I got into the workplace, there was a time when I was bullied again. And I wasn't sure how to handle it. So this training is for all the women and men out there who are feeling like you don't know why you're being bullied and what you've done wrong. And I'm here to tell you it's not about you. But more than that, I want you to know that you're not alone and that this training is more of just a start for the steps that need to be taken for you to get back on the path to feeling more confident about yourself, about the work that you do, and to battle the bully in your workplace. So here is this training that's going to share with you about not only identifying what bullying in the workplace is, but also how to protect yourself. So here's what to expect in this training. We're going to talk about and actually define workplace bullying. We're going to talk about what is it that we should be looking for and identify and how to identify possible bullying in the workplace. But finally, we're going to talk about what are some of the definitive steps that you can take to protect yourself and your career. So let's start off by saying, what is workplace bullying? Workplace bullying is a repeated mistreatment and a form of abusive conduct. Now, this is from workplacebullying.org, and they had done a survey from the Workplace Bullying Institute. And they did this survey of thousands of professionals in the workplace. I think it was 7,000 people. And in this survey, they looked at bullying, not just your typical eye rolling, but what they just talked about was the nonverbal cues that are coupled with verbal abuse and the tactics of exclusion that are delivered by perpetrators repeatedly in order to intentionally harm targeted individuals. So this is the critical workplace bullying definition. But it's kind of hard to just, decouple all this. So let's look through it. Nonverbal cues. So let's think about it. If you've heard somebody ever eye roll at you, roll their eyes at you, but it wasn't coupled with anything else, that's not really the workplace bullying that is going to be defined in the data that's used for this training. That's typically not considered workplace bullying. It's probably just a jerk in your workplace, okay? But nonverbal cues, so if the eye rolling was then combined with shouting and a really intense voice, you can hear the tone change, right? You can hear the volume change. These are all nonverbal cues, but you can tell that there's an aggression there. And those nonverbal cues, that is what, also coupled with what is being said, can be construed as workplace abuse and workplace bullying. The tactics of exclusion, these are things that are used by perpetrators to isolate the person who is being bullied. Whether it's not inviting you to lunch, whether it's excluding and not sending you critical information that you need to get your job done, but it's given to everybody else and it's made to make you look bad. And if it's done once, it could have been a mistake. So, okay. But if it's repeatedly done, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that pattern of abuse. If it happens once, it could have been a mistake. But if it happens over and over and over, coupled with these nonverbal cues that you're sensing, then then it can be construed as abuse or workplace bullying. Now, like, the thing I want to really share as the analogy here is that if you consider domestic violence, workplace bullying would be the equivalent of verbal abuse in the home. Think about it here. It's that non-physical violence in the workplace. That is workplace bullying. And it is very common. Over 71% of workers are aware of workplace bullying. And we've seen here that about 20% have been bullied and 7 are currently being bullied. We've got 21% of people who have witnessed other people being bullied. And another 23 are aware that bullying has happened. They just might not have seen it. So we know that it's very prevalent in the workplace. So if you're watching this or you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, I'm all alone, you're not. This happens a lot. And what I've noticed more anecdotally is that as stressors happen, as there's others, economic stressors, say unemployment's increasing, or there's more demand in the workplace, I've noticed that bullying increases, and that makes sense, right? There's more stress and more tension in the workplace. So 71% is a lot, but it could be higher, meaning that it could be even higher in actuality based on the situation that you may be in. So the key thing to note here is that you are not alone, and that there are people who are going through the exact same thing, and you don't need to suffer in silence. So what that means is that turns into 65 million U.S. workers are impacted. So if we take this down and we break it down, about 37 million people have been subjected to something called abusive conduct. But the key thing to note here is that 60% of the people being bullied are women, and the majority of the bullies are men. So if we think about this here, it's that, women are overwhelmingly the ones that are being the victims of the bullying. And it can be something that can be strewed as men thinking themselves as, oh, we're just in the boy club, and that's, we're being aggressive, and that's just how we roll here in the higher ranks. But if you're noticing and it's making you feel uncomfortable, and it's repeated, and it's hurting your career, then you've got to take action. You've got to do something about it. Other things to note here is that male bullies, they tend to target women as well. But female bullies predominantly focus on women. And this is this whole, tension in the workplace, women not supporting women in the workplace. It's pretty evident that they actually target women. Maybe they see them as competition. But whatever the reason, it's happening. And it's something to be aware of and to take action against. In addition, minorities are often more bullied. So if you're a minority woman, chances are you've been bullied. And I know this from personal exposure. I've known this has happened. 57% of Hispanics are making up those who have been bullied. African Americans are also a component as well, 54%, Asians, 53%. And nationally, about 48% of people who are impacted by bullying. So these are either the targets or the bullies, or the bullied people, or the witnesses to it. So who are these bullies? 56% of the bullies are your boss. And that's a really difficult situation to be in, because if your boss is yelling at you and you're just thinking it's because you did something wrong, but your boss, first off, should not be yelling at you. They should not be throwing things. Your boss should not be putting you down demeaningly. These are not workplace items that should be happening. And I know when we watch TV, we see these things happen and we think it's just a norm, or we've been exposed to it before, and we think it's something that we did. I know this happened to me when I was working in corporate, and I remember this person I was working for, a very senior person, and she threw something at me. And it was something I thought I did wrong. It was something that I took on as something that I was not good enough. And it brutally hurt my self-esteem. It hurt every aspect of who I was, because I thought I was bright, I was intelligent, I could take on the world. I, was adding a lot of value. And when I joined her team, it plummeted. Not only did I gain weight, but I also just became miserable and more sullen. And I would cry every night. And it wasn't me. And that is something I want you to know. Even if it is your boss and your boss is there to evaluate you, they can also be a bully. There is a place for feedback, and that feedback should be in a positive way, and it should be balanced. If your boss is only saying the negative and is yelling at you and is throwing things at you, that is not typical, and that is abuse. Other things, 33% of bullies are coworkers. So if you think about it, these are people that can, those cliques in the office. And those cliques in the office can potentially cause hostility in the workplace. There usually is one person who's the dominant, and then you've got the other people kind of just following because they don't want to get bullied either. But regardless, once you recognize it, you see what it is, and you can take action. Finally, 11%, and this was surprising to me, that 11% of bullies are bullying upward. So if you've got someone on your team who is, say, the person who monopolizes a lot of the time and effort, doesn't get things done, or is that negative person on your team, they potentially could be a bully to the rest of your team members, and to you. If you are considered one of the nicer bosses, it can be somebody that is under you that could take advantage of that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. So how do you identify possible bullying in your workplace? Well, we've already kind of talked about this, about how the minorities are more often bullied, but also nice people get bullied. And this is kind of sad to say, but if you're compassionate and kind, if you're cooperative and agreeable, and 78% said those characteristics, those nice people are the ones that are getting bullied. Now, this makes sense logically, although from my heart perspective, I think that that's just the saddest thing I've ever heard. The nice people get bullied because they're an easy target to these bullies. Bullies are ones that are looking for people that are not going to fight back. They're looking for people that they can abuse. And when you think about nice people, they're usually agreeable. They're usually not going to be confrontational. They're usually people that are going to roll with the flow. And they're the ones that are going to be accepting of it. And so, I'm going to be putting this out there for you nice folks out there. There's a point where you can be nice, and I don't want you to change that, because being nice is a good thing. Being polite in the workplace is a must for career success. But you've also got to be assertive. You've got to understand and stand for yourself and stand up for yourself, because otherwise there will be people that will take advantage, and not just the bullies. I'm talking about other people that will potentially take advantage of your material. They'll take your idea. They'll, and they'll use it as their own. It's not to say that we're talking about bullies. In this case, it can be malicious, but they're also subtle digs. And especially as women, when you are giving an idea out there in the workplace, and if you've ever been in a conference room and you've had your idea kind of be swiped, you state an idea, doesn't really get any reaction, and then 2 minutes later, Gordon Gekko over there takes the exact same idea, changes it just a little bit, and it's the greatest idea since sliced bread, and takes all the credit. The assertive person is going to be the one to say, thanks for building off my idea, Gordon. I think that's a great idea for you. That was such a good build off my idea to do XYZ. Claim an ownership and show that assertiveness. And being an assertive person is going to help prevent you from being a target. So what else can you do to protect yourself and your career? Only 20% of employers are working to stop bullying. And federal workplace laws are forcing people, there are no laws out there right now that are forcing employers to prevent or stop workplace bullying. And a lot of people, 38% of coworkers, think that they can do nothing to stop the workplace bullying. A lot of them just feel, hey, if I intervene here, I'm going to be a target. So this is very disheartening. So what does stop the bullying? 61% of the people being bullied lose their job, and 13% get transferred. But only 15% of bullies lose their job. So why is this? Why are the bullied people being the ones who have to lose their job, who have to have to get transferred? What happens is that the bully, the abuse that's been taken on, it hurts your self-esteem and your confidence. And when your self-esteem and your confidence is hurt, your performance stops, just plummets. And again, I know this from firsthand. I mean, this is exactly what happened with me. And I ultimately left the company. I quit. I couldn't do it anymore. And it was because of that last, experience. And I just said, you know what? It's not something that I want to work on anymore. But if you want to stay in your company, if you like your job outside of the bully, you have to start bullying the bully in your mind. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but what happens is that in our minds, the bullies, they play into something called our saboteur, or what I like to call our inner mean girl. Our inner saboteur or inner mean girl is always there. We always have these things, so that's telling us, oh, we shouldn't do something, or we're doing something wrong. It's an old mechanism from the prehistoric times that were there to prevent us from putting our hand in fire, right? So we wouldn't get burned. It's that voice in our head that tells, oh, don't do that. You're going to get, you don't want to get burned. What happens is that when the bullies say, you're not good enough, you failed, this is crap work, our inner saboteur, our inner mean girl taps into that and starts listening to that message, and we replay it over and over and over because we're trying to figure out, well, how do I deal with this? What is the way that I can change this? And because we replay it over and over again, and the bullies then, everything we put in front of them is not good. It takes a toll on our self-esteem, and we start to believe this negative talk in our heads. And that's what it contributes to that decrease in confidence and ultimately to a decrease in performance. So it's about changing that psychology in our heads. It's about becoming assertive. And it's about really taking action. Taking action to do something powerful for you. Owning up to that, that this is not you. Being and dealing with that psychology, that negative psychology is a lot to take in. But know that this is something, that's happening. Right now, the only other alternative is to leave because there are no other people fighting for you. And that's a sad, very sad, I know. It's hard to take. But it's the truth right now. So what can you do if you're bullied? The first step, and the first and most important step I say here, is name the bullying. If you don't name the bullying, if you don't call it what it is, it's just going to keep going on. If you take it on as, maybe they're right. Maybe my spreadsheet's not as good, or maybe, maybe I did fail in this way, or maybe, maybe I'm not good enough. It's just going to cycle into this spiral of negative self-talk, of, self-demeaning behavior that you're going to start to exhibit. So the first step is to stop this crazy cycle, and that is to name it. Name the bullying. What I'm going to talk to you about is when you name it, you got to first name it for yourself. But the second thing you want to do, and I would encourage you to write this down, is name it, but then also write down all of those things that this bully has done to you. So in my case, I remember the person I worked with, she would criticize little things that would criticize what I've done. And they were digs, and nothing could be good enough. And if I look back at the time, I wish I had written down all of the instances, and I had a record of it. So what I'm going to talk to you about, it's as simple as getting a notebook or getting a spreadsheet, opening up a spreadsheet and just writing in the date, what the situation was, and what this person has said. So you're identifying and documenting it. And potentially even write down the trigger for yourself. So you're naming the bullying. You're documenting it. Okay? And when you recognize it, I want you to start changing the self-talk in your head. This is important, and this is going to go into the heal and protect you perspective section. But it's really about identifying every time this person says you're nothing, or you're not good enough, or you're a failure. You have to counter that with a positive self-talk, or else the inner mean girl is just going to go crazy, right? It's going to start, getting more powerful. So you've got to counter that by saying, no, I am strong. I am a success. I will win. And just calmly take the feedback. So what would you like me to change in this presentation? Oh, the whole thing's crap. Specifically, identify what are the areas that you would like me to change. Be calm, take a breath, and then ask specifically, what would you like me to change? Give me an example. It's the big thing to know about this is that, and this goes into the heal and protect you, is that you've got to recognize it's not about you. This whole bullying thing is about them. They don't know how to deal with their stress. They don't know how to deal with the pressures of leadership. They are not a good leader. They may be feeling intimidated by you. And they don't know how to deal with that. And the only way they can get out their stress is by yelling at people, by telling people that they're less than. And when you understand that, you almost feel empathy for this person. But before you do, I want you to understand that you've got to first and foremost heal and protect you. Before you reach out in empathy, and you're kind people, and that's one of the reasons why you're almost a target, right? Because you're kind and empathetic. You got to put yourself first. You got to protect you first. And not think about them. Because remember, 60 some odd % of the people being bullied are the ones who have to leave. It's not fair. So if you want to keep your job, you've got to heal and protect you. You've got to keep your confidence up. So strategically, the one thing that you can do is, every time you're going into an interaction, make sure you've got your stuff all down and you're solid, but take a breath. Calm yourself. Roll your shoulders back 3 times before every meeting with this person. And you're going to want to take in this thing called a power stance. This thing is called a power stance, which is a very important. It's an important stance because it's if you've watched the TED Talk from Amy Cuddy, it's a body movement that you can take that automatically breeds confidence. So you would literally just stand up, and I'm going to do it right now. So stand up, and you're gonna stand up, and you're gonna have your feet about shoulder width apart, and then you're gonna roll your shoulders back 3 times. And when you rolled it the 3rd time, you're gonna keep your shoulders back, and then you're gonna put, yes, the Wonder Woman stance. You're gonna put your hands on your hips, and you're gonna do the Wonder Woman stance. And studies have actually shown, especially for women, it works for men too, but just by standing in this perspective, you get more confident. If you stand in it and you look at yourself doing this, that's even better. So I encourage you to do this at night. But if you're going into a meeting, right before you go into the meeting, run to the ladies' room or run to the men's room, go into a stall and do the stance. I promise you, if you take a breath, stand up, feet shoulder width apart, roll your shoulders back 3 times, and then hold it, and then Superwoman Wonder Woman stance it out. I promise you, you'll feel more confident. And more confident is what you need to heal and protect you. The other thing you're going to do, and I'm going to offer you a way of connecting, is to really get some coaching. Not only from a perspective of understanding mentally how to stay sane throughout the whole process, but also to safeguard your career. Because as we mentioned here, 61% or 60 some odd percent of the people are the ones who have to leave. And that's not fair. So you need to safeguard your career and start putting more positive messages out there about you. And so if you want some support on that, I would strongly recommend you set up time with me, and I'll show you a way you can do that very shortly. Finally, you're going to want to expose the bully. And so this is where all of that tracking is going to come into play. You're going to take these, all of the bullying details that you have. You're going to have them all tracked with the date, the time, the situation, any witnesses that might have been there. You're going to track it all down in a spreadsheet. And when you have enough data, I want you to go to HR. Now, you got to be protecting yourself. Okay. If you go to HR, as we've already said, doesn't have a leg to stand on. They haven't really been proactive about these things. So you've got to be proactive. You've got to have the data with you. Data is your friend in this case, and instances of where other people they can talk to. The other thing to think about is if it's not a safe environment for you, I would start looking elsewhere. Yeah, I know it's not ideal, and I know you don't want to look for a job, but not all instances are like this. And you need to expose the bully in the workplace. But if it doesn't happen for you, meaning if your HR people don't seem receptive and some aren't, then you've got to protect you. Okay? And that may mean finding a new job or career. And if you need some support on that, that's also another thing you can talk to a career strategist or reach out to me about. So again, I want you to ask for help. The first step that you can do is find out if your company has an employee assistance program. Now, an employee assistance program is typically free, and most healthcare programs have this. It's a way for you to get some therapy, at least 3 sessions with a therapist for free. It's on the company. So find out if you have an employee assistance program and what are some of the benefits that are associated with it. Regardless, I think that's from a therapy perspective to kind of heal some of the wounds that are happening from this bully. But if you need support talking about your career and what to do next, and also some of the mindset, how do I break out of that bullied person mindset or victim mindset and really into that assertive, confident person? How do I build my brand so that I'm never a target again? How do I really build my career up so that I can succeed and build my career and get more money for the job that I do, because it deserves that? These are all things that you can get by working with a career strategist. And I strongly suggest that you set up time with me or another career strategist that you know that can talk to you about the next steps for you in your career and also help you build not only your career strategy and your plan, but also to help you build a confidence building plan, because that's going to be integral. So with that in mind, I want you to schedule a one-on-one with me. The only way to change is to start taking positive action in the direction of your goals. And that requires taking that step and getting the advice that you need to align with where you want to go in your life, but also in your career. So if you go to this website, http://binakavalam.com/career breakthrough session / go to the website. It's all on here. Pause this section, go to the website right now and sign up for a complimentary session with me. If you are looking and if you want to take action and you want to get change and you want a better life, don't just close this down and not take action. If you want a better life, it is possible. I know it happened for me, but you have to take action. You can't just sit there and take it, because if you do, it's never going to change. With that in mind, I wish you all the best in your career, but more importantly in your life. Please do reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything. And I'll put some information underneath this with all of my logistical details. But most importantly, find the time to protect you. If you are being bullied, make sure you take those steps that we've identified. You can do this. Thanks, everyone.